Hi there. Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks is an exciting new digital opportunity to obtain mentoring to help you improve your modeling. You will meet talented modelers and manufacturers from all over the world who share their model building skills and artistic advice. Improve your modeling and increase the confidence in your modeling efforts. Share your building efforts with fellow modelers and have some fun doing it. The shows are live on Zoom and YouTube, so be sure to join in and ask your questions. Now here is New Tracks founder and your host, Jim Kello, MMR.
Welcome. Thanks so much for coming tonight. We really do appreciate you attending our shows. We hope that you enjoy them. We think we've got a great one for you tonight. Before we started, I'd like to turn to Father Ron Walters for our New Tracks prayer. Father?
I'm sorry, my screen froze. I have a new prayer for you this evening. Creator of the world, as modelers and makers, we recognize the intricacy and beauty of our world. We thank you for the vision and the artistry you have given us. Continue to bless us with your creative spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Father. We really do appreciate it. How was your trip to Lithuania?
It was fantastic. It was a good meeting.
All right, that's great. Well, we're glad to have you back. Now I want to talk about Modeling Lifestyle. That's our new show on Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern. We had one last night. We had Bill Davis and 3 of his friends on for a roughly 2-hour show. And it was fantastic. If you haven't seen it yet or seen the video of it, I hope you will. It's on our YouTube channel, New Tracks Modeling. And it's the show that we did last night on October the 18th. And I really hope that you'll be able to see it because it really was an outstanding show. And the 4 people that were on it, to see them interact and to see them talk about their modeling and each other's modeling was really exciting. So I really hope that you can see that show. Not only that, but we've got a super show for Thursday, November the 3rd. We have Tom Yorkie as our guest and 3 of his friends. And I think that is really going to be something. You know, Tom was a manufacturer of kits, of O-scale kits for many, many years. And he recently retired. And I'm happy to also announce that not only is he going to be on our Modeling Lifestyle, but probably in May of next year, we have it scheduled for right now. Tom is going to offer one of his kits, a structure kit, to New Tracks modelers. And he's going to build that kit in 15-minute segments on the shows during that month. So I hope that you'll look forward to that as much as I do, because I really do appreciate him both wanting to be a guest on Modeling Lifestyle, which certainly is deserving of him with his background and everything that he's contributed to our hobby, but also be willing to do one of his kits, one of his structure kits, and then do the build along on our show and give you the opportunity to buy the kit at a discount from him. So we have a short introductory video we'd like to run.
Join the Modeling Lifestyle at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on November 3rd, where we will feature the modeling lifestyle of Tom York. Tom is a legendary modeler, custom builder, and a renowned manufacturer of craftsman kits.
not to mention, he's just a first-class guy. We also need to tell you again, we need help. We need volunteers. We've got to produce these shows. There's a myriad of things going into to running these shows. The one on Wednesday that you're at right now, plus the ones we do on Thursday, plus we're getting the scholarship off the ground. There's just an awful lot going on with New Tracks right now, and we need a lot of help. So if you have just a little time a week that you could give us, we sure would appreciate it. My email is jimkello@newtracksmodeling.com. And if you'll just send me an email, then I'll get in touch with you and we can see what you'd like to do and how you'd like to help us. We have some upcoming build-alongs that I want to talk about. We have one starting October the 26th, Hangman Creek dioramas with Jess Dozier. This is a first diorama kit that we've done on the show. We have new creations, Victoria Railroad Building, starting November the 16th. That's Alan Rogers' company. Alan is going to be the church that you see on the slide. And then we have Darwin Lighting Without Wire that's going to be starting on the 23rd of November. And you know that's going to be interesting because you're going to be able to see not just the product, but how the product is used and what's involved with using the product. And I think you're really going to enjoy that. So those are the upcoming build-alongs that we have. We have my bill, which is tonight, and I hope everybody that could has sent Chris Corse some information on a model that they want to show. If you haven't, there's still time, so send him an email. And the next one coming up after tonight is November the 23rd. And again, this is the one that Chris Corse is host for. And if you'll send him an email, then he'll make sure that your models are shown and you can talk about them on the show, which we really hope you'll do because it's important for not just you, but it's important to show the other modelers what's being built and what everybody is doing to get these things taken care of. And it's I can't tell you how important that is for the future of our hobby. Now I have one other announcement that I'll make before I get into actually starting the show, and that's about New Tracks funding. We've never asked for funding before from anything, for anybody. We ran some train shows for a while, and we had the companies that participated in the train shows pay a fee to enter the train show. But this is the first time that we've ever come to you and said, hey, help us out, we need some money. But we are now. You've heard me talk about YouTube, our videos on YouTube. We hope that you'll watch a lot of those. But we also have started a Patreon account. And the Patreon account, I think, is where we're going to have to count on raising the bulk of the funds necessary for the projects that we're trying to get funded here. Our Patreon account is New Tracks Modeling. We really hope that you'll consider a contribution to us on the Patreon account. We really desperately do need your support. As I say, up to this point, New Tracks has been funded. Either I've written the checks or we've spent the money that we made trying to host the train shows that we ran back in the year 2000. But that money is basically gone. And to continue, and we just need to raise some money. People are contributing. I think we have 7 contributors so far to our Patreon account. If you can see your way clear at all, we sure would appreciate some help with that. And also we want to talk about the scholarships, because the scholarship that we're offering, it's never been done before. We've never tried to do anything like this before. You've heard me talk about the Walters Scholarship. You've heard me talk about Greg Cassidy's club and the scholarship that they offered in their state. that was patterned kind of after Walter's. Well, now we're trying to offer one for, we think, a reasonable amount of money, $1,000, for this coming school year to one student, because we don't want to get overly ambitious. And frankly, we want to make sure that you're behind this, that you think well of this program. No one else is doing this kind of thing. We'll be the first group of modelers that is trying to step up and help one of the young members of our community continue their higher education. I think that's worthwhile doing. I hope you agree with me. And that's why the Patreon account is so important to us. And that's why that we need your support in trying to fund our scholarship. We've got a great committee that we've set up. That committee is working right now on developing the criteria a student has to have in order to apply for the scholarship. They have all of the rules and regulations from two companies, Walters and one other non-modeling company, but a railroad company that offers scholarships. And they're developing the procedures that we will use, as well as the procedures that they will use then to select the student from those applicants who apply. The chairman of it is Larry Price. Larry is a longtime model railroader. He's run for 25 years the Youth in Modeling program in Denver, Colorado. It's a very successful program. It's known about all over the world. And Larry was kind enough to agree to chair this because he sees the value in what we're doing. And he knows that we're the only people trying to do something like this now. So we need your support, and we hope that you think well of the program and will back us in trying to get this off the ground. So those are my announcements tonight. And now I would like to turn to Gary Shurgold, MMR, for his bits and pieces. So Gary, welcome.
Hi, Jim. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Good. So far, I'm doing well.
Well, we'll see. You haven't started the show yet.
Yeah. Well, we're going to do that right now. Share screen. Number 2, share. And there should be something on the screen, I hope.
My gosh, yes, there is.
Okay, bits and pieces tonight is going to be a continuation of what we were looking at last week with tinfoil. This tinfoil thing, I can go on for probably 2 or 3 weeks with that, but this is going to be the second episode. And what I've done is I've collected the tin foil off chocolate wrappers, etc. And I saved those and I cut them up into pieces. And then I cut them into smaller pieces, make a pile. And then what I do is I put them into a blender. Now this is a little handheld blender. You can get a blender from a secondhand store, probably for about $5 or $10. Use it. Don't use your wife's. She'll get really mad at you. And what I do is put them in there and I blend them. And this is what I end up with. These are little aluminum pieces. And I make a few piles. And then what I do is I get myself a piece of foam that fits inside a gondola, make a box to put the foam in out of cardboard. And as you can see, I put a little tape around it so the glue or the foam doesn't stick to the box when I remove it. Okay, that's placed inside the box. And the ground up aluminum is then put inside. There's what you get, and you take diluted glue 1-to-1, pour it over, and let that set. Now, when you remove it from the box, this is what you get. So this has been painted metallic paint. And then what I did a little bit of rusting. And I then placed that inside a gondola. And then you got a nice little rusted steel load. Okay, I did exactly the same thing, only this time I cut the pieces into straight pieces. Took those and cut them into little square, or not, or as close as you can get to square. It doesn't really matter. And then what I did was I layered them on another piece of styrofoam. As you can see, they're layered on. Now this is 3 layers thick. Then what I did was I did a little bit of metallic painting again on it. And then I did some weathering, a little bit of rust here and there. And that load would go inside a car also. So now I've got 2 little loads. Now, if you were paying attention, or you can remember from when we first started Bits and Pieces, this is a piece out of the computer. And what it is, it's an aluminum cooling rack for a transformer that would be inside the computer. This thing measures about 4 inches by 3.5 inches. And what I do with it is I take my aluminum foil, and by rubbing the top of it, I end up getting this sheeting, corrugated sheeting. So as you can see, I put that on there, and then I cut around it and do a few more, end up with a few more sheets, as you can see here. And there's another sheet that will go on, and it'll get the same process, and I end up with some corrugated sheeting. Now, this item here is aluminum duct tape. And what I do with the aluminum duct tape, you can see by the little item here, which is an actual refrigerator that I had made. And I used that aluminum, wrapped it around the round cylinder, and that gave me a nice stainless steel top on the item. Now on this here, what I did was I took the aluminum foil again, and I made a stainless top table that went inside a wagon cart for a buddy of mine. So you can see there's lots of possibilities with it as well. And Jim, that's Bits and Pieces for tonight.
I love that. That's neat, Gary. That really is. Thank you so very much.
I thank you.
Well, now I want to introduce you to another gentleman that's got some great ideas, Hank Primus. And he's back doing what Paul Thompson used to do for our quick tips. So Hank, thanks so much for bringing this back. I really think this is a great segment, and I'm so happy that you wanted to do it.
Yeah, I wanted to do it because I've always loved it. I always thought it was a great thing. So now I just have a few little things that I try to do. First thing, I'm going to be working with a clothespin. This is probably the first clamp that any of us ever used, as we played while our mothers hung up the clothes, and we played with these things. Now these has actually come out to work with pretty well as a clamp. Now, one thing with this clamp, you'll see that there has this little nose here on the end. Well, sometimes that doesn't work, and it's better to have a flat end like this if you're trying to get close to something. So what I've done, and hopefully I can show this. Sure. Okay. Got my miniature little chop saw out here. And you got to get the clothespin down in there just right, because it has that spring, which keeps it from sitting down nice and flat. So you have to get it in there flat. Screw it. Let me see. And there we are. Flat end. All I do is take it. I can't see this part, but hit my little sanding wheel very quickly. And as you can see, it now has a square end. The best part about this, it allows you to get flat. Well, you can't see it that way. Get flat up against something. Whereas the regular clothespin keeps you from going there. Now, I use these a lot because I think I got 100 of these at the dollar store for $1.
Mhm.
And you can't get much cheaper than the dollar store. They're probably $2 now at the dollar store with everything going up. But this is one of the contraptions I've done. Now, if you don't have a handy little chop saw like I have, hold with me a second. Seeing as this is live TV, you can always use the good old trusty miter box and come out with the same thing, with just a lot more sawing and a lot more fun. And that is all I have for today. Hopefully this will let somebody have a cheap clamp that will help them out in the situation and keep going.
I think it's a wonderful idea. I've never seen anybody do that before. I've seen them make alligator clips out of the clothespins, and I do that all the time. I've never seen anybody cut off the end like that and use it as a clamp. That's a great idea.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right, now I want to introduce another gentleman, and this is this I really enjoy. This is Kevin Hunter, Touch Toggle Company, and he does What Will They Think of Next? I love the title that he chose for this segment. So Kevin, thank you so much for joining us.
I don't think Kevin is in the attendee participants list, I can see. So we may have to wait and get him a little later.
All right. I don't know what happened to Kevin. He knew he was, had the date and so forth. I guess he just maybe hung up somehow. And now I want to introduce somebody, Mark Pendledorf. Mark owns a hobby shop in California called Pogie's Trains. And I can't thank him enough for doing this. Tonight is the first segment of a show about hobby shops and modelers. Because as I look into the industry of hobby shops, what I'm finding is the owners of the hobby shops face many problems that we modelers face. I don't think that we talk to each other enough. And I think that's a sincere problem between modelers understanding what hobby shops can do for them and hobby shops understanding the needs of modelers. I went to the Association of National Retail Hobby Stores Association, which Mark belongs to, and they are the sponsors for this segment. So before I introduce Mark and he takes over for the first segment that's going to become a regular monthly segment on our shows, here's a short video I want to run about this association that represents hobby stores all over the country.
This is a great family, and I hope the people that are newer to this organization, to this NERSA, realize what a great family we're building.
Since its inception over 25 years ago, NERSA's mission has always been about
collaborating with hobby retailers
to foster leadership in the hobby community. Bringing hobby stores together to help one another is what NERSA is all about.
There is strength in numbers, and NERSA's members are shops, just like yours and mine. From the very small mom and pop shop to multi-store franchises and everywhere in between.
You know, this is the founding part of this program we have here, founded on fun. So let's remember when they come in your stores, they're there for fun.
There are many great benefits to being a member of NERSA, from a great credit card program, discounts on shipping, and a members-only Facebook page.
NERSA is our voice in this industry, and it is up to all of us to make sure that there is strength in our voice.
For every member that joins NERSA, our voice becomes louder and clearer. Your support of NERSA is vital to the growth of the retail sector of our industry.
And I really want to thank NERSA and the executive director of the organization, because they have put me on the mailing list of their monthly magazine. And because they've done that, I'm learning an awful lot about what the hobby industry is doing, what they're thinking, what hobby store owners are thinking, what the distributors are interested in dealing with hobby stores. So for me, being able to have some information that the hobby stuff owners are dealing with has really opened my eyes a little bit about the problems that hobby shops face around the country. And they are significant in my opinion. So with that said, Mark, I'll turn it over to you, and thank you so very much for wanting to do this.
No problem, Jim. Thank you for having me. First off, I'd like to start with saying that, we attended the NERSA convention. It was my first time, and it was really kind of an eye-opener for us. We realized that model railroading is a very small percentage of the overall hobby industry as far as the manufacturers and everything look at. So that's something that as hobby stores that specialize in model trains like myself and other ones who have a lot of model railroading products to offer their customers, I think we really need to kind of start beating on the doors a little more of these manufacturers and suppliers to extend their offerings to the product lines. This year's focus was primarily on the radio RC car industry at the convention. And unfortunately, there wasn't a whole lot of model railroad suppliers there. Caboose Industries, his ground throws were there. KD was there. So we had good conversations with those people. MRC was there. LGB. I'm trying to think who else. That was about it for the model train specific manufacturers that were there. Horizon Hobby was there. However, their main focus was on the RC cars and a couple others. There was some robots and other gamings, but we were fortunate enough to bring a few new products into our store. Those great KNS metals. We now have that full rack in our store. We've been waiting for that, and we got that in the store now. So I think there's a lot of work ahead of us to do, and I think model railroad hobby is definitely growing from what I see. People are starting to really walk through the door again. The summer was kind of slow. The economy has definitely been a great hurdle for a lot of people, especially out on the West Coast where we're still paying almost $7 a gallon for fuel. Milk, everything is high. So we got to encourage the hobby shops to offer some special deals. If they can get some promotions, some of these manufacturers offer promotions that we can take advantage of to get people through the door. We're also building a new layout in our store. We've done a complete remodel in our store over the last 3 weeks. It's about killed me. We've taken out walls. At the suggestion, we went to the NERSA convention, and we learned out that our entire store was laid out wrong. So we have spent the last 3 weeks since that convention just completely revamping our store. So anyway, I also have, I don't know if he signed in yet. I can't see. Neil Carnaby from Neil's Engaging Trains is my guest tonight. And he has a retail hobby shop, a brick and mortar shop. And is Neil here tonight?
I'm here.
Okay, Neil, great. Glad you're here. Neil is a great friend of mine. We've known each other a long time. I do consider him one of my closest friends. He's also been in this business a lot longer than I have. I have learned quite a bit from him over the years. He's been wonderful in that respect of mentoring me and telling me and kicking me in the butt when I need it. So he's one of those wonderful people that I like to deal with. So I'd like to introduce Neil Carnaby right now. And Neil, would you like to tell us a little bit about your store? This is where you get to put on a shameless plug for your store and also what you offer.
Primarily N scale, some HO, scenery, all the usual suspects. For many years, though, I have brought in a lot of little bits and pieces. Hi, Dave. I saw your text at the bottom. Of stuff from England. I tend to specialize in little detail parts that other people don't I do a lot with etched metal. I have etched fences in both HO and N scale. A lot of white metal parts and pieces for finishing the scene. One of the things that as a modeler, and I think most of us who are crazy enough to own a store are modelers, is the details in the scene. I like to see complete scenes. I think it's cool when you can get all the little extra parts and pieces in there. As I said, I've been going 30 years. I remember when Rob Gurman had black hair, having seen him in that shot from NERSA. I remember seeing him 30 years ago or 25 years ago when NERSA first started, which has been, again, as Mark said, that's a valuable resource for us in the hobby store to be able to go to the convention and actually get the ear of a manufacturer or a wholesaler in a somewhat less stressful environment than the National Train Show. And that's about it for me, I think, in a nutshell.
Right. Okay, great.
Yeah.
What do you, as a longtime retail hobby store owner, what are some of the biggest hurdles you're experiencing right now with the industry as far as either suppliers or customers or what have you? I know it's a loaded question.
There's always seems to be somebody out there that wants to sell it cheaper. And one of the messages that we as hobby stores have to keep reinforcing to our customers is the service after the sale. This person in particular is notorious for not being there after the sale, but that doesn't help me when someone says, oh, the price you just posted, I can get it for less. Well, yes, you can, but is he going to be around tomorrow to help you? No. And that's a message that we try to get out to all of you folks as modelers. That's probably the biggest challenge. And when you sell someone on that and sell someone on the service, then you tend to have a customer who does come to you before they go to the web or before they go to the train show and buy it from the lowest price retail possible.
Yeah, we're starting to see that a lot of people are complaining about the internet where they're buying this stuff and they're not getting what they wanted or it's non-compatible. So we're starting to see people start coming back to our store the same way that you are for that purpose. What are some of the things you're doing to try to increase the traffic into your store? You told me one thing already that you were doing that sounds cool.
Well, we're redoing, even as we speak, redoing the layout in the window, or putting a layout in the window that will be totally automated, HO narrow gauge, with a doodle bug and a K something. I'm not entirely sure what Norman is sourcing me from Blackstone, but my son's got something up his sleeve.
Oh, that's great.
So that we have something that's moving all the time, that provides that detailed scene I mentioned earlier in combination with animation and motion, which are what attract eyes and people to look at the window in the first place. The other thing which I don't do and need to do is I have two beautiful picture windows and I don't do enough with them. I need to change up the displays in the windows a lot more often than I do. I've joined the chamber. I'm active in the chamber. So they know I'm here and that helps. The website from the chamber reinforces the fact that there's a hobby store in this town. So anyone coming through who looks up the chamber site discovers I'm here. That's another way we get our name out there.
Now, so where are you located? What's your contact information?
Staunton, Illinois. And it's neilsengage.com or neilsengage at AOL, which is NEALSNGAUGE. Most people seem to forget how to spell gauge, funnily enough.
That figures. And then what are your best-selling items right now as we go into the holiday season? What do you feel that people are really looking for when they walk into a retail hobby shop like yourself?
Sets, obviously sets. They're always looking for sets at Christmas. If you publicize it as such, though, you also seem to get an awful lot of Y&L walking in the door looking for repair because it is a set from under the tree. And the only time it comes out is at Christmas or possibly even every 10 years at Christmas.
Right.
So,
now, do you offer repairs and services like that also?
A little bit. My challenge, of course, is on Lionel. I don't have parts, and having lost Norman, I don't have a technician anymore. But most of the stuff that comes in is fairly simple, and I do have someone else in town who's a occasional customer that I can utilize as a source for repairing Lionel, and he does have parts. So we try not to do a lot of that, but and then of course obviously the other thing is locomotives and rolling stock are always going to be key. And track, we specialize in Cato track. We've specialized in Cato track forever. Having the full line of Cato track, that way if someone buys a set, or if they bought a set last Christmas, you have what they want to expand. You have the turnouts, you have the extra track, you know how it goes together, or at least I do, such that I can explain it to them when they run into a challenge with metric versus inches, and they run into a challenge of odd shapes they need to fill.
Yeah, and that's one thing, Neil, you definitely have the Cato track down. That's for everybody that's watching. If you've got any Cato track questions, Neil is the guy to talk to. He's been doing this since the stuff was invented pretty much, and he's got it down pat. He can take care of you, anything like that, and answer your questions. What's something you'd like to see some of these manufacturers do that they're not doing right now as a hobby shop owner?
I think my challenge more is on the software side, and there was someone at the show who's been pushing POS systems that integrate everything for years through NERSA, and that's my biggest challenge. As far as manufacturing side, we seem to, at least at N scale, which obviously is what I know best, Scale Trains has been taking care of HO with new product. The new company coming on has some new product. There seems to be an awful lot of product coming down through the pipeline in both N and HO. And Atlas at least seems to be working their way through all the locomotives and then resetting and going back through them again so that they're DCC and sound compatible.
Right.
So I'm not sure that I'm desperately looking for anything from the manufacturing side, except possibly in a little better time frames, but most of that's outside their control.
Yeah, that's what we're noticing too. Is there anything you're having problems getting as a retail hobby store that you keep ordering and is back ordered? I know we have a few items.
Atlas track, Atlas code 55, Atlas code 83.
Yep. We're experiencing the same problem.
My big regret is the Pico.
Neil, I hate to interrupt, but a lot of the modelers on the show aren't hobby shop owners. I'm not. I don't know what you mean about having one of your main problems is POE. I don't know what that means.
POE?
Well, the point of sale.
POS, point of sale system.
I'm sorry.
It's always a challenge between, especially if you utilize eBay or Facebook, it's always a challenge keeping up with an inventory management system to where I know what's on the shelf. If I've sold it at a show, sold it in mail order, sold it on Facebook, or sold it in the store. And that's my big challenge. And that's a money investment side issue. Coming up with the money to buy the hardware in order to do it. The software, I think, exists well enough to do that. But that's a step I haven't taken, which Mark may have done.
I see. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Always define your terms.
Exactly. Well, that's one thing, Neil and I both do a lot of train shows from here to the East Coast. And that's one thing I think is a great medium for retail hobby shops is to get out there and get to some of the shows, get to know some of their customer base and get in touch. Whereas just staying back in your store all the time doesn't work. And I attest my success in this business is to going to those shows. And it amazes me how few retail hobby shops really want to get out there and go to a show. A lot of them I talk to locally, they view it as competition. So they don't want to go there. And I think that that's one area that retail hobby shops could greatly improve is get out there. Even if you have one table with a banner above, like Neil, he attends, that's where I met Neil, was at train shows many, many years ago. And he goes and has 3 or 4 booths, same with me. And we've become good friends traveling around the country, having fun with these shows. And we're also trying to work with the national, somebody just posted the National Model Railroading Association. We're trying to get more active involvement with the NMRA and tying that to shows and tying it to retail hobby stores. I just joined the professional side of the NMRA also. I've been a member for years, but I think that's another way because you get your name out there and there's a lot of people still walk in my store. I don't know if you have this happen, Neil, where, oh, I didn't know you were here. I've been here 13 years and I still get that no matter how much money we put in advertising, how many shows we go to, how many things or events we try to put on, there's always that percentage of the public that has no clue you were there. Do you experience that too a little bit, Neil?
Always.
Yeah.
The store in New Hampshire, we used to have people coming in asking us where the bread aisle was because it was a bread store 5 years before I opened it. So 8 years later, they're still looking for their discount bread.
I believe it. Yeah, we're right next to the place we're in now used to be an exterminator. So I have guys come in about once a month wanting to buy a bucket of the fluid that they used to buy to kill bugs. And we just look at them. Well, the train can run over bugs. So anyway. Well, do you have anything else you'd like to say about your store or about yourself, Neil?
I don't think so. I think we covered it. NRail is also looking at ways to partner with people at the moment. NRail only has, I think, 3 partners. They're trying a partnership program similar to what the NMRA does, which is another thing that some of the stores, especially if they get something unique, might look into.
You want to tell people a little more about NRail that may not be familiar with it?
NRail is, in essence, it's a similar to what the NMRA is overall. It is to N-track, or it started, I guess, because of N-track, and a modular being the modular standards enforcement, if you will, or they defined what the standards were for modules. And now it's grown to encompass T-track, N-track, and Fremo. And also is over the last year, and the reason it's gone to NRail from NTRAC is to try and encompass more of the armchair or the home layout folk, so that we represent all of N-Scale as an organization and not just a fragment of it.
Oh, that's great. I was not familiar with them at all. So I've been familiar with Fremo, but I did not know that they've kind of conglomerated all into one.
Sort of.
Great. Yeah.
Fremo.
Pardon, Jim?
I'm not an N-scaler. I'm an O-scale traction guy. But do you think that the community of modelers knows about this?
No. It's just like a lot of them don't know about the modular layouts. We have a new group that we started locally called Mainline Modular. A bunch of us left an old club that just didn't want to move forward. And we're trying to expose the modular world to everybody. And then many of you might know a legend, Jimmy Booth. He's an SN3 modeler and manufacturer, right? Who is he's local to us. He's only an hour away from me, and he comes in my store fairly regularly. And he come in a little while ago, and he saw that we were starting to build a layout in the store, and he goes, "That was the best move he ever did when he had his store back east, because it exposes people who otherwise have no idea what really a model train layout is." Everybody has this conception of a 4x8 piece of plywood with 2 trains just running in a circle and some grass mat. They have no idea to the level that we go as modelers to create a world in miniature, like you, Jim, with your traction layout and stuff. It's just, that's another level of modeling that most people have not been exposed to. And I feel that every store that carries model railroading products should at least try to have something in there, even if it's a point-to-point diorama. I think that greatly increases not only your sales and the interest, but gets all these younger people exposed to trains. And it's got to be DCC equipped with sound. You got to have the noise. The old days of DCC are just gone. And especially on the West Coast, we're seeing Lionel not as popular as it was, except Christmas time. Christmas time, Lionel goes nuts in our store. But the rest of the year, the Lionel 3 rail is pretty much dormant. So you need to be able to adapt to your customers. And again, a lot of this was learned. I encourage every retail hobby shop to become a member of NRSA. I think that the more voices we have at these conventions, the more action we're going to get in our favor. And we're going to get to learn a lot more of how to, like, laying out a store. I had no idea before this. We talked about moving some fixtures around, but when we came back from that convention, my wife and I looked around and said, okay, junk it and start over. And that's pretty much what we did. So upgrading your stores, all this kind of stuff really helps people's perception. Another thing we've done, Neil just mentioned he's a member of the Chamber of Commerce. We're a member of the Roanoke Park Chamber of Commerce, and they do monthly get-togethers, and we're ready to have them come out. And there's going to be over 200 business people show up at our store in the next month on a one night for a social gathering, and we'll have hors d'oeuvres and so forth. And those 200 business people are going to tell everybody, hey, there's a train store in town, and model trains. And out of that, you're going to get at least 1 or 2 customers. And
Right.
I think this follows with what we need to do, Jim, to get the retail hobby store back in the face of the general public, because it really has gone away. The internet has done a lot of damage. I love the internet. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I use it daily. But as far as that camaraderie, the meeting fellow modelers, the getting together, the touch and feel of a product, you just can't duplicate that unless you walk into a store.
Well, let me ask you all this. I mean, from a modeler's perspective, is your customer base what I'll call modelers? And modelers to me are year-round hobbyists. They're builders. They're model builders. They're not buy it in a box, say how pretty it is, and either put it on a shelf or put it on track and run it around a circle. But a modeler is a builder. He's a model railroad builder. He likes to build things, not just take them out of a box. Is that your customer, or is your customer take it out of the box and put it on a track?
I would say about 50% of our customers are take it out of the box, maybe do a little bit of weathering, put it on the layout. I would say about 20% of them are what I call the hardcore modelers, the guys like you, MMR, or me going for my MMR, that really want to scratch build stuff, buildings, freight cars, what have you. I think that's a smaller percentage. And I think time has forced that issue because a lot of people just don't have the hours to devote to scratch building and so forth. But there are a lot of people, they're demanding better products. And that's, like Neil mentioned, scale trains and some of these other like Atlas Gold line, the better products, even Exact Rail and so forth. Those are much better quality than the old Athearn blue boxes or the Tyco before it. So that's what we're noticing. A lot of the customers are coming in demanding better quality. The good modelers, they don't mind spending the money on locomotives, be it a Genesis or an Intermountain or something like that. They want that detail level. But then we do have a fairly large contingent of people that are starting out in the hobby, which is really refreshing for us because especially around this time of year, we get a lot of guys that are either re-entering the hobby after 20-year absence, or we get a lot of guys bringing in their grandkids that are 6 to 10 years old, and they're seeing the locomotives, they're seeing the cars, and that's where we succeed with our vintage products. We have a whole bunch of vintage items in the store. We're not just brand new. And I would say that's about 50% of our sales is what's technically pre-owned. And guys come in, they buy the Athearn Blue Box locomotives, they take them home. So they get a locomotive for under $50 that runs good. And some will put DCC and sound in it, some won't. And then a lot of the Athearn Blue Box freight cars still sell well in my store. So you get different levels of quality and demand when the people walk in the store. But the actual scratch builder hardcore model, what I call, that really wants to just create, that number seems to be going down a little bit.
One of the new to hobbies I keep hearing about, we got to attract more young people. Some of the comments that I get from the build-alongs that we do on our show is the people in their 40s. Kids are gone. Their career is stable, may have a little extra money now, have a little extra time. Think back to the hobbies that they had as a kid. Hello, model railroading again. And then they look at what's available. And it bears no semblance to what they bought or what they had when they were kids in model railroading, particularly when it comes to anything that they have to lay their hands on and build.
Yeah.
And there's a tremendous amount of fear, it seems to me, from the comments that I'm getting about, I'm not going to buy that building to build because I don't think I can finish it, or I'm concerned that I'll get it halfway done and not like it and have to throw it away. So why spend the money on it? And I don't know how to get around that, but I do think that there's a lot of armchairs out there that could become model builders if that can be solved.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because one thing we're going to start after the holidays is we're going to start monthly clinics in our store. We have the space out in the shop. We're going to set up about 20 tables, and we're going to start mini build along take home things. We're going to start with a simple kit. We're going to have some seminars on DCC install, laying track, building a basic layout, and advertise these and get these people who have a lot of fear. We've already got a ton of people signed up because one of my strengths is scenery. And people, when they come to scenery, they tend to get fearful. They can put a basic building together, but how do you weather it? How do you make it fit the scene? How do you make the rest of the scenery around it look right, the trees, the you know, the landscaping, all that kind of stuff, and the details. Like Neil was mentioning, the details really make the scene. Well, if we can do little boards, because I have a full wood shop, so we will cut little boards. They'll get a little diorama to build something simple, take home.
Right.
And even if we set it up for a couple of weekends, and that has been well received. We've started the sign up lists for it, and people are just gog over. So I really encourage the retail hobby shops, if they have somebody that has a specialty that works for them, or the owner, start offering some seminars and clinics if you can. And then not only can you sell some product to these customers, you can also show them how to put it together. Now you've built their confidence level, and now they want more. As soon as they know they can do it, they want more.
Yeah, generally I encourage someone to buy one of the smaller laser cut kits, be it especially N-Scale Architect, because his I know are well designed and the directions are in English, well written English. And get them started on that small kit, and then they can grow their skills to go up to the bigger kits and so on.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
I used to do that with the etched metal kits. I used to do the clinic for the NORA a couple of times at the national train at one of the nationals, Kansas City. Okay. Because etched brass is the same way. It's got so much detail etched into it, it looks intimidating, but most of them are relatively simple. And I did a clinic on that. It was quite popular several times.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. I have not done a lot of etched metal, to be honest with you, because it looks intimidating. So that's one of my weaknesses. So I got to get with you.
Come do it in your store. Just tell me when.
Okay, no, but that sounds great. That sounds great. We got an extra bedroom too. So
let me ask you this, Neil. Would you like to do something like that on the show?
I could, yeah. I need a while to find the parts, pieces, the notes, and the tools again, but I can do that.
That would be great. And Mark, if you can give me his email when we get off the air and so forth, maybe send me an email and I'll get in touch with you, Neil, and we'll work out a time for that, because I think that's an important skill to learn. I really do. And I know that there are some companies that I've heard about, at least, and talked to in England, that are just doing some outstanding work. There's a lady that runs a company over there. I forget her name and the company name right now. But she has some beautiful things that she does. So I'd really be interested in seeing some of that and having it done on the show, because I think
Helen at Fret Cetera, is it?
I'm sorry?
Helen at Fret Cetera? Scaling Fret Cetera?
Yeah, I think that might be it.
Yeah, I've dealt with her and Bob before her since 25 years ago.
Yeah. And he's gone now, as I remember, right?
He sold I think he's still around, but he sold that to her. He sold the etching side of hers.
I didn't know whether he died or what happened to him. I just sticks in my mind he was gone somehow. So, but yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there. I really do. In scale, for example, in scale, we have. It's funny. And Chris, of course, I'm going to tell a story about you now. Chris Core owns a company called Conowingo Models. And Chris was doing a build of one of his models on the show, and he was building it in HO. And we had a modeler on the show say, well, Chris, are you going to offer that kit in scale? And Chris said, no, can't find windows for it in N-Scale, so I can't offer it. The guy said, well, wait a minute. I know where you can find the windows. In fact, I'm building it in N-Scale right now, and I'm using the windows that you need. And Chris didn't say anything. I've been kidding you about that because, you know, I think some of the small manufacturers around that produce in other scales really don't know what's available in N-Scale and never think about offering a kit. And I don't know how profitable it is for them, but never think about offering the kit because they don't know where to get the parts, I guess, you know, for the windows and doors, you know, that kind of thing.
A lot of times you get into that, and it's funny, but you ask your customers, or as a store owner, you ask the customer, or if you're a modeler, you ask the other modelers. Sooner or later, and usually sooner, you're going to run into someone who knows the answer because they've done it or they've talked to someone who's done it. We are a very chatty group for the most part, and that information does seem to get exchanged back and forth. especially at the conventions or at the train shows that have clinics. You'll find a lot of information flows that people have in their head and they forget to ever tell you until you ask the question.
You know, when I was younger, one of the real benefits of having a local hobby shop was it wasn't just a place to go and buy. It was a community center. It was a place that I could go and spend an hour, 2 hours, meet some other modelers, find out some information from them, find out how to do some things that I was interested in trying to do, and maybe buy something, or maybe that day not buy anything at all, but just have some commonality with the other people that were there. Is that happening now in the hobby shop, or is that dead too?
No, it's happening.
Okay.
Even in mine, it's happening, and mine's not a great example, but because mine's a little different, but I'm sure it's happening in Mark's.
Yeah, it really is. We're starting to get, and it's funny, we get a few of the younger chatty guys in their 20s start talking to some of the older gentlemen that come in the store, and you know, you'd think they were grouchy old guys at first, but then they just start talking, and 2 hours later you look over and they're still yapping away at each other, and next thing you know, you got a phone number exchange or something like that, and you know, the younger guys are just like sponges absorbing the information the older guys are giving them, and I think that's great, and we are seeing a lot more of that. And I know once we start the seminars, that's even going to increase, because I'm going to have a few other experts come in, not just myself, to do certain seminars that will just promote more camaraderie in the hobby. And Jimmy Booth is one that told me that when you have a layout that runs in your store and people can see it, he says it really makes the business numbers go up, but also invokes that sense of community when people can stand around and watch a train run, or they can run one, you can hand them a throttle and they can run that train, and they just feel like they're part of something bigger. And that's a good thing.
Do you all also do a mail order, or is it just come into your brick and mortar and that's it?
Is this question for Neil?
Yeah. I'm mostly mail order. I have very little foot traffic, but I'm not here a lot of the time either.
So if I was an N-scaler, Neil, and I wanted to order from you, how do I go about doing that? I mean, I don't want to pay any more shipping than I absolutely have to. I need some parts. I don't know how to order from you. Do you have a website that lists all this stuff, or how do I buy from you? I'm in Florida.
Generally, email, telephone. The website for me is not great, but generally I do it over the phone. I'm one of the old-fashioned people that much prefers talking on the phone to email or text.
Gotcha.
And that's generally the way I've worked with people around the world. I've got, you know, regular customers in Holland, England, the West Coast, and they'll get hold of me, and generally we work on a list of stuff, and eventually they get a box.
What about the Far East? You have a lot of customers in the Far East? No?
Not since I shut the store in New Hampshire. I had 2 or 3 in Japan when I had the store in New Hampshire, but I lost them.
Ah, okay.
So this is Phil. Jim, I wanted to ask a question. So this is kind of, when I've talked to hobby shop owners, there seem to be 2 issues. You know, there's a whole issue around getting people in the store and marketing and that, but kind of there seem to be 2 back end issues that are very problematic. The first is this kind of long tail of inventory that's slow moving that you kind of have to have in the store. So as modelers get more and more sophisticated, they look for more and more specific products. And the long tail in the hobby seems to be getting longer. You know, the advent of 3D printing, of laser cutting, the ability of people to manufacture lower volume products that are more targeted seems to be a real challenge within the industry, especially as modelers get more sophisticated and older. So that's one issue. I kind of wanted to be interested in understanding, you know, how you think that could be resolved in a way that, you know, when somebody comes to the store, they have the opportunity to get the thing they want in one way or another. And then the second issue I've heard is that it seems to be getting harder to buy things in lower volumes. So, for example, you know, if you want to put an order in for engines, you have to buy a certain volume in order to get the orders and the distributors. I've heard this from folks, and just curious about your reactions to those 2 thought processes.
Go ahead, Neil. You can go first.
I haven't seen any issue with ordering engines. Hobby Time, Heartland, Walthers, all three of them take orders. You turn in the order, you turn it in for 1 piece, 10 pieces. It just goes into your back order file. And when it pops up, they ship it. Hobby Time, interestingly, is the last distributor I know of who still calls me every week and goes through what's new. And that gives me the opportunity to actually talk to the salesman and give him my order. But I've not had any issue in that regard. The smaller bits and pieces, I think that's a good thing in a lot of ways because it helps a lot of the serious modelers get the parts and pieces they need. I know Shapeways does an awful lot of business that way. Most of that is such a volume that I don't know that Mark or I would make any money trying to fulfill them in the first place. There's the standards. I mean, Woodland Scenics and Walthers both cover an awful lot of ground for figures and parts and pieces that are going to have a mass market turnover. A lot of the 3D printed stuff, and you get into volume, it's going to have a hard time holding up in that sort of volume anyway. It's not really geared for 1,000 or 2,000 pieces, which in order to be successful in a hobby shop, that's about what you're looking at. I do a lot of white metal castings that get painted that I used to sell through Walthers vehicles and so on. And that's another subset that does do quite well it's a smaller run count. So you can satisfy that smaller demand. The same with etched metal. To do an etch tool and do a series of etchings with a bunch of stuff on it is not, in the overall scheme of things, hugely expensive to invest in. And that's got some durability and some mass and the ability to tweak it to the mass market or more of the mass market. So it's not not the special bell that came off a Jeep 10, which is going to appeal to 10 people.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way. And it's one thing when I opened this store way back in 2009, a couple of the suppliers told me do not devote a lot of space to small detail parts because it's a dwindling market. And I think they're right. And when we went to the NERSA convention, they really harped on product turnover in your store. And they said, if you've got a product that's sitting there and you only sell it a few times a year, you need to get it out of that space and put something in there that sells several times a month, because you're paying for every square inch of your store. So therefore that needs to produce. So you need to bring the products in that are going to produce. I'm like Neil, I've had very few problems ordering any locomotives or freight cars. You just have to watch your deadlines for pre-orders, because a lot of the product lines now have gone to pre-orders, which can be frustrating because you got to have a crystal ball to know how many to order from your customers or for your customers and for future stock. But as long as you make those pre-order deadlines and get your order in on time, you're going to make it, and everybody's happy. It's pretty rare that a manufacturer drops a pre-order announcement. It does happen occasionally if they don't get enough, but anymore it's pretty rare. So as far as that, the biggest thing we're having problems with is some of the items that come out of China, like the Atlas track and so forth. That is probably the biggest single item right now that we have consistent back orders on.
You're the first two hobby shop owners that I've had on the show, and I think I've had it's either 5 or 6 other hobby shops, and Mark knows this, and I've talked to him about it, none of which belong to the association. And I don't know why. I never brought it up with any of them. I never said about the association or why don't you belong. But as few hobby shops as there are around the country that are left, in my opinion, it just seems to me that there's got to be some way where the hobby shop community can better communicate the advantages of shopping with them. And that communication would seem to me to be better if everybody got together and were singing the same song. So I don't understand why, there doesn't seem to be more of that within the industry.
Well, one thing I noticed that until I talked to Steve at Fundemonium, I really didn't know about NERSA, and I think as an organization, and this was touched on at the convention, NERSA needs to do a little more footwork to get their name in front of some of these hobby shops and show the benefits that are offered, because there are some great benefits of being a member, but I think there's a lot of people who just don't know they exist. Simple.
Neil, what do you got to say? Anything? I mean,
I think NERSA took a major hit with COVID. I think because they rely on that convention. And they publish through what is Hobby Merchandiser, right, Mark? That's theirs.
Yes. Yeah.
They do a good magazine, and they used to pop up occasionally in MR and some of the other magazines with ads. But I think they may have had their marketing side knocked out from under them by not having a convention for 3 years, 2 years, 2 years, I guess.
Yeah,
they had
2 years. Yeah.
But I don't know. I haven't talked to them, and I am not an active member at the moment. Although it's just escalated onto the really short list again. I just couldn't make a mention this year. I wanted to, but I had a conflict. And as Mark said, it is very much RC centric.
Yeah. Well, I would agree with that. Reading the magazine that they produce and so forth, and see who's advertising and what the products are and all of that. I'm not seeing that much model railroading, I tell you the truth, which is bothersome to me. I think having the hobby shop owners on our show and being able to communicate directly to the modelers that are here. And have an exchange of trying to get ideas going back and forth. I think that's important, because I don't think that communication exists today. I think a person comes into a hobby shop, they buy a product, and they're gone. They don't really, there's not a communication flow of exchange of ideas. And I think that's needed, because I think you have a story to tell. I buy from Mark in California. I don't buy locally. The reason I do that is between Mark and I, because of the service that he provides me. Not because he's on the show, not because he's the host of this segment, but the stuff that I buy from him is I buy because I trust that he'll get it to me, and I don't have to worry about it being on backlog or anything else. If I order from him, he'll get it to me. That's how I feel about it. Well, that's an advantage for me. And if all hobby shop had that, then, maybe it wouldn't be an advantage that I think Mark provides. And that kind of thing, I think there needs to be, why should a modeler, particularly a modeler now, not a Christmas modeler, a model railroader, but I mean a modeler, a year-round model railroader, why should they come to the local hobby shop if there is one anywhere close to them? It's kind of like asking a hobby shop owner, why should I belong to the association? Well, there's got to be a reason that the association has that they can justify whatever you're paying to join that. Well, for a hobby shop owner, there has to be a reason to overcome the extra cost for me to do it. Right. And I have got to understand what that reason is. And that's got to resonate with me. And I don't think that's being communicated. That's just my feeling after.
I agree 100%. I think you hit the nail on the head, Jim.
And therefore, that's what I'm trying to do with this show, guys. I'm trying to get you to tell us how hobby shops can help modelers. And I'm trying to get the audience, like Phil asked his questions, how we can work with you. What do you need from us? How can modelers, I'm talking about modelers now, these are year-round people. These are people that are going to be back and back and back, not just through October, November, December timeframe. So this is year-round stuff. This is money you can almost count on each month in a lot of cases. So what's in it for us? How can we help you, but how can you get us? That's the exchange that I'm hoping is going to come out of this. And that's why I'm so thankful that Mark was willing to host this and bring in people, Neil, like you, to try to help us understand how we can work together. Because if we don't work together, You can't do it by yourself, and we can't get you to do it by ourselves.
That's very true. We're going to continue moving forward with this thing, and I think we're working on something good here. I think we're starting to build something that's going to be long lasting. It's just going to take some elbow grease and some legwork, and getting the information out to these shops, and yeah, calling random stores. And I've already got a list of people that have been sent to me of store owners that sound like nice people, and we're going to bring them on the show and put our collective heads together, and hopefully with you overseeing this, we'll make some good headway.
You know, I'll give space on the show. If a hobby shop owner wants to do a door prize for me once in a while, or once a month, or once a year, I don't care how often he does it. A hobby shop owner wants some visibility, I'll give it to him. And all I'm asking is give a door prize to the people that are here for that show. If they want to, I'm all for that. I think that would be great. And it would be, I'll give you a minute on the show, talk about your company, you give a door prize. You don't give me anything. You don't have to pay for anything right now. Just give a door prize and let us know you're here and that you care about the modelers. What other show is going to do that for you? Who's even interested in talking to hobby shop owners like we're talking right now?
I know I've called a couple already, and they're like, I can see the deer in the headlight look over the phone. They're like, huh?
Yeah.
But they want to come on board. They're when I tell them what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve, they're interested and they're excited about it.
So that's where I am. That's where I'm trying to come from. In exchange, because I want something from you guys. I'm going to give everything that we've got here to you guys. I want something from you guys. I want you to promote new shows, my new tracks. I want your customers to know about us. At least try us. If they don't like the shows and they don't think that we're worthwhile, don't come back, but at least try us. If you think well of our scholarship program, I'd like to have that publicized somehow in your hobby shop so that maybe your customers would be interested in coming to our show and maybe contributing to some kid getting some help getting to college. I think that's worthwhile. That's what I'd like to see the hobby shop community support us with.
Yeah. Well, I think that'd be great. I also was going to mention that I think every store that comes on this or what have you, like myself, I want a banner in my store that says New Tracks.
Absolutely. I
agree want something that they can do. You know, we asked about the NERSA banners, and they're going to try to get some more made, because I said I want to have that on the front door of the store. When they walk in, they know that we're a member of NERSA, and then they'll probably ask, well, what is it? And we can explain some of it to them.
If you could do something like that for New Tracks, that would be fantastic.
Oh yeah, I'm all for that.
And you know, I think that there's a way that the modeling community, and I really think that our show can represent the modeling community to some degree, because we're live. You know, this is going to be on YouTube forever now. The conversation that we're having right now, any hobby shop in the world can look on the YouTube for this show tonight and see this live like we're doing it today.
Yeah.
No hits, no nothing. Here we are. This is what we said. I think that's important for the hobby, to know that there are a group of modelers who care enough about trying to support the local hobby shops in this country that they're willing to do something about it. And that's what I think that's what's important about the communication that we're trying to establish with you guys.
No, that's great. And that's why I'm proud to be a part of it, to be honest with you.
Well, listen, I don't want to keep you too long. We've been a long time tonight. Neil, thank you so very much. And as soon as Mark gets me the information, I'll contact you, and you figure out the tools you need, and we'll work out a time when you can come on the show and show us how to do all this stuff.
Okie dokie. Sounds good to me. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Neil.
Thanks so
I'll
very
talk
much,
to you soon.
Mark.
All right.
Mark,
Good night.
Mark, you did just a beautiful job. Thank you so much for the first show. And
No
guys,
problem.
this is once a month, you know, and Mark will be back next month. New guest for him. And
a new guest.
We'll find out some other information.
Yeah, and we're going all over the United States with it. And then that's not the big advantage of me doing these shows that I do. I've traveled and I've met a lot of these show owners, and the ones that I know are reputable and can take care of the customers like we expect. Those are the ones I'm talking to.
Fantastic.
I've already got 5 or 6 lined up. So, I mean, we're going to be busy, and there's a lot and it's really diverse. The the attitude, the type of owner, what they carry. It's really interesting. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Mark, thanks so much. I really appreciate it tonight.
No problem. Thanks, Jim.
Yes, sir. Well, now let's turn to what I think is also a critical, important part of our show, and that's the My Build. The opportunity for the people on the show to show what they've built and to talk to us about it a little bit. So again, the host of this part is Chris Corse. And Chris, I will turn it over to you, sir.
Thanks, Jim. Well, slideshow here. Maybe.
And Chris, now I got your contact for in-scale windows.
Yeah. Yeah, they were there all along. Come on. All right, there we go. All right, tonight's My Build is featuring you, of course, and I started at the end. So let me back this all the way up. And we'll try this again. Okay, tonight's October 19th, I hope. So again, My Build featuring you. And those are some of the fantastic models that we've had on the show over the last couple of years that we've been doing this. I'll just love Bob Farquhar's little caboose down there. That thing just, when I went to redo the slideshow, the thing just captured my eye. It was like, oh, that is so neat. All right, anyway, we'll move on. That's me, of course. And then we'll move on to Martin. How you doing tonight, Martin?
Okay. Taking me by surprise by making me jump first. Okay.
Well, I realized that I realized when I was going through the slideshow that I didn't have everybody alphabetical, so I re-alphabetized everybody.
Oh, I got to change my name. Or the spelling of it, at least.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So it looks like we've got 3 slides for you tonight.
3. Okay.
Yeah, so.
Oh gosh. Yeah, old time tank car that I built. That's a scratch built. Well, the flat car underneath it is scratch built. The tank is actually older than I am. That's a leftover from an old low bow kit. That was the part that was salvaged from the kit. The rest of it was trash. And rather than just throw a nice tank away, I put it to work and got these decals. And finding this color was a little problematic, but we finally tracked down a can of paint and got it done. It's mounted to the flat car fairly simply. Those straps are actually what secure the tank to the car through the bolster down in the bottom of the car. And as usual, it has the pretty close to an intact K-brake system underneath of it.
All right.
That's about all there is to that one. Oh yeah, now this is something a little more fun. This was a brass IMP tank car from the 50s. Cheap Japanese import from the 50s. It was the top of the line item though back then. I picked this up at a train show, gosh, Harrisburg O-scale meet this past spring. Couldn't turn it down for the price. It had no details on it whatsoever. So all the details, all it was the tank. It had the ladder and the stanchions and the railing around it, but everything else was missing, including all the underbody. It was completely absent. There were no stirrup steps, no grab irons. The placards were all missing. So this was a little bit of exercise in how to use my small torch carefully and put this all together and solder it all up. So this was all soldered together. All the brake parts were actually one of those rare times where I actually used all brass parts. And this is a really nice, for the O-scale people. I'll let it slip out that this K-brake casting is it's a back shop product from Wiseman Products. And this is a really nice casting because it has the actual connecting for the train line plumbing in the casting. So you can bend it down there. There's a union joint, you can pass, and I did pass the 31 thousandths brass tubing wire I used for the train line through the casting. So it actually all connects. It's also so it's actually plumbed properly through from one end to the other. So this was a fun car to build. Really complicated paint scheme, black. Gosh, try to stay simple, but nice K4 K4 decals. So which worked beautifully. They're really kind of fun to use because he's got some interesting stuff.
Yeah, you'd never think that car was that old.
Can you imagine that's what model railroading was in the 1950s?
It's a beautiful car. It's for $30, you get a nice car that you can put some parts and time into, and you get a really nice car at the end of the day. It's actually surprisingly good. I have a second one sitting in the queue, waiting for me to do the exact same follow through on all the parts. Slightly different. It's a slightly different car in that the center sill is different type of brass, different style of brass. So I'll have to see how I solder that up together. Something to burn my fingers on sometime soon. What do we? Oh, so yeah, this is early slides on this project. I got this false front from Frenchman Creek. It's a laser cut front. So all you get from that is the actual front. Those dark pieces of wood that are in there didn't come with it. That's actually some cherry, some 1/16th cherry that I had. So I actually built up a front, and the side walls are all mine. The dividing wall interior, the interior is all paneled. There's a chair rail that runs around. That's all been added. The storage rack is all scratch built. The wall with all the framing. The back wall has framing as well. It's exposed, which you can't see in this photo. But this is going to be a long-term project. It's a fairly large structure. I kind of avoid large structures because they tend to take over way too much of my workshop, because not only are they large, but they sort of call for an interior, a lot of details. And then you have 2 square feet of details spread out, sorted out, cleaned up, all the white metal castings or otherwise, and you have to paint them all. It's tedious, it takes time. And I'll be back next month with an update slide.
Oh, cool.
So of where I've gotten, we'll do this stepwise. This is another exercise of getting rid of a lot of extra stuff in my shop. I mean, I have detail parts in drawers that were well suited to marriage to this project. So I'll get rid of everything in one fell swoop. And this will probably end up next year sometime getting auctioned off at the Strasbourg O-Scale show. I gave them one of my structures for this year's show. I gave them my Yarmouth models, that X31F PRR car that I had somebody else build and finish for it, but we auctioned all this stuff off at that show and raised $1,200 for the fire department. So we got a really good O-Scale show there. I'll plug the show, but I also plug the fact that we try to support our venue, because without a venue, you don't have a show. So you got to, work hand in hand with people. You got to make, try to be helpful in every direction. And I'll stop there and let the next victim step up.
All right. Before we head on, are there any questions for Martin regarding either of the cars or the false front?
Martin,
whose kit was that?
Are those walls sloped to the back?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually, it's chopped off a little bit. It starts out flat about here, and then it slopes back after about, I don't know, 12 square feet.
Okay,
I got to measure it to be sure. I don't know.
thanks, Mark.
Next month, you'll get a better picture, maybe.
Yeah.
And the other,
Whose kit?
the false front is from Frenchman Creek or Frenchman's Creek.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually bought some stuff. I bought a bunch of stuff from them, and they threw that in. Here, have this for fun.
Hmm.
And I said, okay, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with it. It sat on the shelf for 9 months, and I thought, oh, I should do something with this before I lose it or break it. So off we go onto a project adventure that's going to take probably another 9 months.
Cool. Yeah, it's a great start. All right. Any more questions? Okay. Whoops. Now we'll move on to Ed Katie. I saw you online a little while ago. You up, Ed?
No, I'm not here.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Looks like you've got 3 slides tonight.
Yes. Yeah, these are the slides of that I couldn't get to Craig last month. But basically it's what I did with the non-covered Queen Post Bridge. I did the same thing with the covered bridge, and that is actually it's gauged out. Actually, the track is gauged to 6 foot. And the locomotive that you see here is actually sitting on the guardrails, which are actually standard gauge. So basically right now I'm sort of like experimenting with the broad gauge. And the easiest part right now is actually the track. So one thing I found out with this is a 100 line bridge that with their narrow gauge bridge is actually a standard gauge bridge, but because of the NMRA standards, it winds up being a narrow gauge bridge. So that's why I decided to make these two broad gauge bridges, and also the locomotive that's in it, which is a I guess it's called the Dixie Mantua Tyco engine, which is actually, from my understanding, double O gauge, not HO scale. Because if you put a ruler on it, it's actually 11 foot wide, not your normal 10. So that's what I'm going to be using as a basis for the probably the first broad gauge locomotive. Because it's about the right size. I just got to turn around and sort of shorten it a little bit to make it a little bit more proper scale, because if you put an HO scale figure next to the cab and all that, it's obviously too large. So I gotta take the cab off and make it shorter, and possibly the same thing with the tender, making it a little bit shorter also. But yeah, what's the other pictures you
All right,
have?
the next slide.
Yeah, this is sort of like shows you what the bridge looks with and without the top. Again, you can see the guardrails, which are actually gauged to standard gauge. The 6 foot gauge actually is about a millimeter smaller than S gauge. So anyone who knows S gauge can sort of figure out exactly how wide the tracks are. As you can see, I made the roof removable because I am planning on, if I do get into a place that where I can actually put a layout on there, I can turn around and I got got these both, well, actually all the bridges I got from Hunterline, I got them so they could turn around and be removed from the dioramas, so I can, reuse them. So they're not really permanently on the diorama. The interesting thing is with what I use for a base on this one, I work at a place that does that makes mattresses, and I wound up actually grabbing. The thing is, we get in fabric in bolts, and actually, what I wound up taking is usually the bolts usually have this. It's a pressed cardboard, recycled cardboard thing that keeps the bolts so they don't roll around on the pallet. And that's what I did, is I actually took one, cut it all up, because the trough, makes a nice little place where you can have a little stream bed and all that. So that's what I wound up doing with this. Also, the abutments were made with pieces of scrap wood and bamboo dowels or bamboo sticks that you can, use for shish kebabs and stuff like that, which is probably better seen on the first ones.
Yeah, let's go back here for a second.
Yeah,
you can sort of see him down there a little bit.
Yep. And the reason the quote stream and all that is like on the one that I showed last meeting or last show. The pebbles are actually from an aquarium, or you can buy a bag of aquarium stuff and all that, and that's what I wound up doing. The reason why I went with the specific color is because a lot of the rocks around where I live are a lighter color. I mean, if you took a picture of the streams and all that, you thought that something went wrong. Something went wrong with the color film, and no, that's how they are originally. There's some marble veins around here, so that's why a lot of the rocks around here are more whiter, yellowish color. So that's why I went that direction. And as you can see, the mixes that I use for the bridge are in the background, which I think I wound up using for the ties and all that. But
all right, let's go on to the third one here. Yep, another shot.
Yep, there's a shot of how it looks like with a locomotive in it. And and that's
all right.
All I can think of at this time. Does anyone have any questions?
All right. Well, thanks, Ed. And we look forward to seeing what you come up with for next month.
Yeah. And Martin has to get somebody with the last name that starts with A, so he doesn't have to start.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have Phil Edholm.
I'm sitting here doing all this, didn't have to unmute. So I'm going to jump through the first part real quickly. Chris, go ahead and jump through. This is
all right.
So
I rearranged it a little bit to what I thought was a more logical sequence, but anyway.
Okay, that's cool. So basically, these were the Berkshire Valley ore cars in ON30. These are the four. I decided to do four because one ore car always seemed to me to be a little lightweight. So there are four. You just jump to the next picture. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these. There's a couple of pictures. Well, so the one thing I did that was fundamentally different than Martin, I actually pre-painted everything. So everything was pre-painted and primed separately and then assembled. The other thing that was really interesting with this kit was when you read the instructions, there was a comment in the paint finishing of using some primer to do some etching detail, because the laser cut side pieces, the grain runs horizontal, and obviously the pieces are vertical, so you get the wrong grain. When I did some of the 3D printed framing, I ended up using this automotive filler primer. If you give something 3 coats of that, 4 coats of that, you build up enough surface texture that it's pretty easy to put some wood grain into it. So in the next couple of pictures, we can see that wood grain in the picture. So go ahead and jump to the next one.
All right.
So you can kind of see here the wood grain. Probably should have done a little bit better. I got a little bit impatient on that. So go ahead and jump to the next one. It just jumped through these.
Actually, I thought it looked pretty decent on that one.
Yeah, I think it came out pretty reasonable. One thing that I also did was on the ladders. I got some NBWs out of the box and added a little block behind the ladders to give them some spacing off of the side. One of the things I really kind of like is it's the thing that often models are more 2-dimensional on a wall, and this gives some 3-dimensionality. So go ahead and jump to the next one. Yep. And the interior, etc. Kind of see the sides. These are just, you can just jump through real quickly on them. That's
all right.
Probably, and then kind of a final shot of the 4 of them. So that was kind of the first item. This is actually on a barge on a module. This is Frenchman River, their barge that you assemble. It's a resin barge. So that was that, Chris. I think that's probably enough time on that one.
Yep. Who was the manufacturer on that?
This was Berkshire Valley, and I thought it was very well done. The one thing that I came away with that was very interesting is it would be really easy to 3D print the body of the car. You know, the wood framing and that, instead of laser cutting it.
Yeah, that's what I saw when I saw or that's what I was thinking when I saw the primer coat.
Yeah, exactly. It's very much the same. So I was actually kind of thinking that you wouldn't want to do that for the sheets, the interior sheets, a lot of the other pieces, but for the basic framing, you could 3D print that if you wanted to. Cool. So that was one project. Oh, the final part of this project was, one of the things I did was I used the Bachmann ON30 arch bar trucks. They seem pretty fine for it. And this is a method of basically finishing the trucks in volume. And you can see this best on the bottom right picture. What we do is cut a 4mm wide piece of masking tape, and you wrap it around each wheel, keeping it about a 0.5 millimeter on the inside towards the back side of the wheel, with about a 0.5 millimeter tape on that side and the majority on the other side. And then you can actually crimp it around the wheel and use your thumbnail to move it off of the edge of the wheel. So the net is when you paint it, you're actually painting everything but the tread. So basically these were all done that way. On the left, what you see is I just put them on with wood screws onto a block of wood, and did the base coat of black, and then they've been rusted with some Dr. Bin's rust there on the right, and then covered with dull coat. So it's a pretty quick way. And actually, you probably didn't notice, but all the pictures of the cars, all the wheels are still wrapped with masking tape, because I didn't get to either lettering or weathering. I didn't want to weather until I lettered, and I just ran out of time to get the lettering on them. I want to put a number on them and a couple other things, and then actually do some weathering. What this allows you to do is it actually allows you to take the whole car and weather it as a piece, including the trucks. And then at the very end, you pull the masking tape off, and you've got clean wheels to run on. So that was I think that's probably the last one out of that set, I think.
Yeah, it is. It's the last slide that we have. I do have the video. I'm not quite sure how this.
Do you have the slides from the other sec?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I thought that. Sorry, I thought that those were. This was basically version 2 of that.
Oh no. Well, let me do this. Let me just run the video, and I can talk about it and.
Okay,
and
I'll go ahead and stop sharing
that way. Yeah, cool. Let me just do this. I'll just actually go back one piece here, and That wasn't what I thought it was. So hang on. Oh, I got a little video here to play, so and then I'll talk about it. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so I'll start talking about this. You guys can just see this. This is actually a mock-up. I had some slides that kind of talked about it. This came up as a discussion on one of the on my ON30 group. Someone had a comment about saying we should have a way to do a front panel vertical turnout control. So this is actually a 3D printed turnout control. Front panel, there's actually the slider for it, and this little video just shows the operation. The slides had a bit more detail, but we can always watch those at some other point. So this will give you an idea of what it is. So the idea is you can move it back and forth here. Just as a point here, and let me back it up just a little bit. This front piece here that has the slider in it, the two pieces that say normal and diverge are actually separate pieces. So I have versions of those for putting them on either side, or you can change the designation on them. So basically, you just move it back and forth there, and what it does is it basically moves the turnout back and forth, and it's a very solid hold on the turnout. To make the whole thing work, give it a second here. So this is the underside. On the left, you've basically got the armature that goes back and forth. That's basically a rotational motion that gets extended to a horizontal motion, and then gets extended to the turnout control. The turnout control actually uses four springs, and they're off-centered so that you get hold on either side. If you look at that right now with it thrown to the left like that, the left set of springs is pulling it to the left. The right set of springs, because they're almost center line, has very little force that resolves to the right. So it actually turns out this thing pops back and forth. The little switch there is actually a single pull double throw switch. I have another version of this that you can put two switches on, so you can have one for frog power and one for other signaling mechanisms. The whole cost of this is the 3D print, which is about 12 hours to print it on an Ender 3. The springs are about 40 cents and the switch is about 60 cents. So it's about $1 of commercial parts. The connector between the two pieces is actually a coat hanger that's bent, and actually those are 3D printed pieces to control it. So basically it just, as you move it, it just moves back and forth. You can put this virtually any distance as long as you got a straight path for the connection. If you want to run it farther distance or an angle, it actually could be used with some of the airline tubing. So that's basically it.
Oh, it's pretty cool. That's I saw the video and I was like, wow, this is pretty interesting stuff.
Yep. So I'm trying to figure out, I've got it done, and it was one of those things that unfortunately, when you retire, you lose doing projects where you get to intellectually go through the process of solving a bunch of problems. And this actually became a substitute for that. So now that it's done, got to figure out what I'm going to do with it. I'm just going to put it up on Thingiverse and do a kind of a video about how to put it together and use it, or do something else with it. But thought it was pretty cool. So anyway, back to you, Chris. All right, I guess, are there any questions?
Yes, I have one. Instead of having the fascia going up and down, can you also do it sideways, or is it not designed?
Absolutely. And actually what's interesting is I think it may require some change in the length of that arm on the paddle. As I think about it, you could use it with a Blue Point or with the Fast Tracks little turnout controls, the actual turnout motor or whatever you want to call it. Or you could use the fascia with that, or you could just use the turnout part in another way with just like a push pull pin like you do with Blue Point. So yeah, it can be done in a number of different ways if you want to.
Now, what happens if the switch is closer to the fascia? Is there like a minimum distance you have to be away from the fascia?
Yeah, right now the minimum distance is probably about 3 or 4 inches. You could, the closer it gets, it's probably problematic. If you turn it over, it probably could be resolved to be closer.
Any more questions for Phil? All right, well, thanks, Phil. And we will move on. How did it do that? All right, we'll move on.
I think Fran had a question to ask.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I can pass. I was just going to say you can always do an out and back. With a second pivot machine, put it out towards the center of the, put it away from the edge of the layout.
Yeah,
And put it right back into the one that's real close.
yeah, what Fran's saying is actually you could go out and have a pivot point and come back. So one of the things that I was looking at, if you had a place where you had to go a distance over to it, you could actually make a very simple pivot point that would change the direction, and that would be fairly easy to do.
Okay. Anyone else have comments or questions?
Phil, you going to start selling those?
No. Quite frankly, being in the business is probably more work than I want to get into at this point in my life.
How about if somebody else wanted to sell them?
Yeah, that if someone else is interested, that's something absolutely can do. Like I said, I probably would end up just putting it on Thingiverse and then making a couple of videos or something about how to use it. We could do something, if you wanted, we could actually do something on the show about how you kind of use it and put it together. It's actually pretty simple to do. There's 11 parts to it.
I'd like to do it on the show. I'd like to see you put one together, and the reason for it looks awfully complicated to me.
It's complicated design, but it's simple in operation.
But putting it together would be the problem for me, particularly, let's say I've got to do 20 on my layout. My God, I'm looking at a whole winter work to put them together.
It turns out putting together the turnout mechanism, that side, actually takes about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes.
Gotcha.
It's
well,
really, yeah. I'll come on and do it at some point.
Thank you. Excuse me, Chris.
No, it's all right. Any other questions, comments, concerns with Phil's switch machine or his cars? All right, we'll move on to Bob Farquhar. You up there, Bob?
Yes, sir, Reeby.
All right. And we'll move on. I think you just have the one slide tonight.
Yeah, the front and back. This is a HO scale kit bash. So Bar Mills has the contest going right now. You have to use parts of their kits to kit bash into something else. So I wanted to do it at the gas station. So I took the middle section, the front wall is part of the Clark's Wood products. The two extensions on the left and right side, they're part of the O'Doul's Flophouse, and the back wall and is part of Pinkham's palette and something else. Anyway, so the sign in the middle there on the front wall for the pricing of the car repairs, like ping 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 is $35 and ping pong ping was $50 and clunk ping whatever. Anyway, it's add a little bit of humor to it all. So yeah, I sent it into Bar Mills for the contest. I don't know, I haven't heard about that one yet.
So right. Best of luck, Bob. That's cute.
Yeah.
Looks very nice.
By By the way, Bob is the show comedian. So if you check into the show early, before 7, Bob always has a joke for us.
So Bob, I only have one question. When you put the lights on, the door lights, was there a reason for the one on the main building, the one on the left, and the one on the right being at different heights?
No, not particularly paying attention. The door on the left is a little bit higher. They're taller, I should say.
Right.
And so it did, different type of door. And I thought bringing the light up higher.
Cool.
These lights are made from shirt pins, like for the get to them good shirts, whatever, you get these pins on there. Some of them are in red and some are silver. These are silver. I just use the pin and just bend them. At the end of the pin is the actual bulb. Okay.
All right. Any more questions for Bob? All right. Thanks very much, Bob. And now we'll move on to Jeff Jordan. You up, Jeff?
I'm here. Hi, guys.
All right. Looks like you've got 2 slides tonight.
Yep.
All right. There's the first one.
Okay. This is, I may have shown this building before. The mining supplies is a long out of production resin kit, which came with a rather uninspiring paper insert to provide an interior through that rather large set of windows. And I was really unimpressed with it. And so I finished the kit and I put the shades down low so you could see that there wasn't anything going on inside. But then I ended up with up at Alf Judy's show in September in Harrisburg and found this terrific Western Scale Models interior kit with all the furniture. And so I built an interior, again, using styrene sheet for the floor, the wall, and the ceiling, and installed all of that furniture. And I have some more pictures of that furniture. But before we flip to that slide, let me explain the photo on the left, which is what's the big deal with 2 windows? Well, actually, that's a before and after picture. I have an assignment for a local museum where I am actually building a O-scale model of a local structure that once existed. And I'm trying to make it as accurate reproduction of the original building from period photographs as I can. I couldn't find a window casting like the windows in the building. And I was about to scratch build them when I scrounging through my window supplies and said, gee, I've never seen this done before, but I wonder if I can just alter a window casting to make the window I need. And sure enough, so on the left is how it came from the manufacturer, and on the right is what it looked like when I was done, with a little bit of careful work with a razor saw and some X-Acto blades, and I was able to preserve the muttons and just trim down the sides in such a way that I changed an 8-pane window to a 4-pane window, trimmed the trim, and then did it 2 more times. So I now have the 3 windows I need. But I had never seen anybody describe altering commercial castings, especially altering commercial window castings. And I found it really wasn't that hard to do. If you were patient, you could cut it down. And I'm really happy with the result. In a couple of months, I'll probably show you the whole building, but it's still in bits and pieces on my workbench. So now back to the building supplies or mining supplies building. I guess your next slide is going to be a bit more of a close-up of some of the interior there. There we go. And this is just really nice castings. I had a ball putting them together, and you can see there's a roll-top desk, there's a chair, there's a coat rack, there's a safe, and on the other side of the room was harder to photograph. There's also some cabinets and so forth. And then I illuminated the whole thing with the new Woodland Scenics LED system, which I really, really like. And though once I finished up, I really like the interior, really brought the inside of this building a feature. You could also see on the other side, there's a clock on the wall. There's some books on the top of the shelf. I added the blotter on the desk, just a little bit of paper. Now I got to go back in there because I think it needs more paper, and stack some papers on the desk, put some catalogs on the shelves and so forth. Also, if you look, I'm really happy on the left there, you see the safe. And I recall that those old metal safes were often very ornate with gold leaf trim and so on and so forth. And sure enough, you can see I managed to add a little trim to it. And it's not nearly as neat as it looks in the photograph. It's just a paintbrush and a little bit of gold paint, but it sure looks like it's got that ornate leaf effect and the name of the safe across the front there above the lock. Very, very neat little kit, and turned an empty building. Really brought it to life.
All right. Awesome job. Who was the original manufacturer on that building?
I was afraid you were going to ask me that. It is a tremendously long out of production kit. I'd have to look it up. I got it through an outfit that sells estates and collections, and it actually was a started kit when I got it. And so I had to deal with the previous owner's false start. But I was very, very happy with that front. But I did look up the manufacturer. The manufacturer still exists, but they haven't built this kit in very many years.
Yeah, is that styrene?
No, it's all resin.
Oh,
actually, no, I'm sorry. The window fronts are plastic assembled from numerous separate pieces glued together. The walls, the trim, the sidewalk, and the roof are all resin.
Jeff, let me ask you a question. How would you feel about doing one of the bits in one of the quick tips showing how to take those mullins out of there to convert the 8 pane to 4 pane?
Sure. It really isn't that much to it. You just got a lot of patience and a fine razor saw and an X-Acto blade, and it trims right down. The castings are made out of surprisingly soft plastic, so they're very easy to cut apart.
Well, I tell you, if you don't mind showing it, because it's one thing to say that to people, but for modelers that have never done it before, seeing you at least do one, I think would really be helpful.
Okay, I'll scrounge through my parts box and pick out a window casting that I can cut down, and then I'll do some photographs of it, step by step.
That's great, and let me know when you're ready, and I'll notify Hank Primus, and he'll include you in the quick tips part, so it won't take you long to do it, but it'll at least show the people really what, how careful you really have to be, I guess, is what I'm trying to get to here.
Yeah, and that is true, because the tolerances are very tiny, the cuts are very fine, and I found a sequence to do it that enabled me to preserve the muttons. I actually left them a little long on the top and the bottom. I trimmed the top and the bottom sills off, took material out of the sides, and then put the top and the bottom back on, and that enabled me, or dry fitted them, gave me the spot to trim the muttons, because I was only going to get one shot at it, and if that didn't work, I would have to replace them.
And that's the kind of detail that I'm looking for in the quick tip, because the modeler, in other words, that kind of detailed information about how you went about it to make sure that the one shot you got worked. That's what modelers need to understand.
Okay, and I think the key thing is the sequence I thought came up with is what made it work.
Absolutely, and that's the detail about how to do these things. That just saying be careful and you can cut it up, but how you went about doing that process, I think, is important.
Okay, yeah, I can do that. I'll just scrounge another window that I can modify and photograph the work in sequence.
Yeah, just let me know when you're ready, and we'll get you on the show. Okay.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any more questions for Jeff? All right, we'll now move on to Gary Shurgold. You up there, Gary?
I'm here.
All right, looks like you've got 2 slides tonight.
Yeah, Chris, this is a Jordan miniatures kit, HO scale. And I looked at this kit and then I put it away. And I looked at it a couple more times and put it away. Finally, I started to build it. The biggest challenge on this kit was the horses. They come in 2 parts. There's 8 of them, and you glue them together. Each horse is different. You glue them together, and then you have to do a little bit of carving to blend everything in. It was 3 stages on the coloring. The wagon itself was fairly easy to put together. Everything was painted up. And then what I came to, the kit for the harnesses on the horses that the driver is holding, the kit comes with wire to do those harnesses. Well, the wire doesn't give you the droop that you need between each horse. So I used shipbuilding thread to run the harnesses, the straps that control each horse. As I say, all the decals, there was like 10 little decals. Each one of those little squares above the wheels is a different city in the United States that the Budweiser beer was manufactured. And cutting those out was a little bit of a task too. And they have to be placed in their proper spot. But overall, the kit was very nice to put together. The other slides will show you a close-up. Yeah, these are the horses in a little more closer shot of the wagon. It took about 3 weeks of different evenings working on it. The only mistake I made on it was the beer kegs themselves, or the cases. It should be light tan, not dark brown. But it was a fun. Sorry.
What's the difference in ship's thread and just regular thread? Why did you specifically use ship's thread?
It's finer, and it has a nice little texture to it. I've had a roll of it. I've probably had it for at least 30 years. So the thread looks much nicer than the wire because the thread droops where the wire doesn't.
Yeah.
But the kit was fun.
What material connecting the harness to the double tree?
I'm sorry?
What's the material that you have that connects the horse's harness, that ring around his neck, to the double tree, to the?
Okay, that is a little tree harness. It comes with the kit. All the straps, or the straps that hook up to the like I call them T-bars, that connect all the horses in line. Those white things between the horses.
Yeah,
the black little arms, they come with the kit, and they're snapped on or glued on. And then the harness around the horse's neck would stick up, It's sort of like a little ornament thing. It has a little gold emblem on the top, and
Yeah,
just
really
a little
nice.
little. If you go on the internet and look up the Budweiser wagon, you'll see the horses. Now the one I did a little research, and some of them had actually chains on the two lead horses, would have chains connecting the drawbars and that, but on some of them didn't. So on mine, I didn't put them on.
Are the horses white metal?
No, everything is plastic.
Looks good.
Yeah, when you put the horses together, as I said, you need to do a little bit of carving. As they come in two halves, and you glue them together, and then you've got to carve and blend them in so that the bodies, the two halves match and shape into each other. These are Clydesdale horses, so they've got an awful lot of fur and that, or hair on the bottom of the legs and on the sides going up.
Gosh, you can almost hear the dogs barking and the horses clomping.
It was a fun kit.
Yeah. All right. Any more questions for Gary?
Great job.
All righty. Well, thank you, Gary. And
Thank
now
you.
we will move on to Bill Stimson.
Hi, Chris.
Yep, Bill.
Yep.
All right. Looks
I'm
like
here.
we've got 2 slides for you tonight.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right. This is the start of my little boom town that I'm going to build. There's 3 buildings in it. The one on the left in that upper left picture is a Mud Creek kit. I think it was Brotman Hobbies. I just bought it because it was an easy one to build real quick and turned out to be very nice. I haven't decided what it's going to be in this boom town. The 2 buildings in the middle are from a Tom York sketch in for Holy Flats. I think this is the bordello and the pool hall that I've scratch built here, and I'm still working on them. The one on the right is patterned after one Dave Meek did for his gruesome casket portable layout that he's been featuring on a bunch of videos lately. And that's MT Graves Undertakers. And you can see the size of these things with that penny there in the middle. What's the next? Huh?
What scale are your buildings?
N scale.
N scale. What did you make them of? What's the material?
The Undertaker is styrene, and so is the bordello in the pool hall. The Brotman kit is laser cut wood.
I'll be darned. Nice model.
Thank you. Why don't you
Yeah,
show
I
them?
actually had dinner with with Fred and Natalie from Mud Creek the other night. Good people.
Mhm.
And actually, the people from Jeff Adam was there, and so was oh crap, the folks from crap. I wish I could remember the name offhand. From it'll come to me later. Sorry, just having a brain fart at the moment. Anyway, so yeah, it looks very nice there, Bill.
Why don't you show the other one, Chris?
Oh yeah, that would help, wouldn't it? All right.
Yeah,
Now
the other
on
thing I'm experimenting with on MT Graves is the light on the outside. That's a Woodland Scenics N-scale goose lamp. And I bought a kit with 2 of them, and I put the second one inside just to show off. I'll probably put a regular LED in there, but I just thought that would be interesting to see, at least see what they do for us. So that's my first experiment in actually lighting an N-scale building.
What is what is that, an LED in there now?
Yeah, it's a second, there's a second gooseneck clamp inside. I just laid it down inside to take the picture.
Oh.
So it's an interesting model. If you ever get a chance to look at Dave's videos, they're fun to watch. He models in ON30, I think.
All right, little memory jogger. Sorry to interrupt. Ron and Michelle Clace of Mind Mount Models. That was who else we had dinner with the other night. Good people. All right. Anyway, back to the subject at hand here. Looks very nice there. Bill, does anybody have any questions for Bill on these three buildings? All right, I guess not. So thanks, Bill, and everyone that shared. The next My Build is November 23rd, and of course, it's featuring you. Email me at railrunner130@hotmail.com to participate. And if you have not shared anything before, number one, it is highly encouraged. And number two, make sure that you send us a photo of yourself to include for your introductory photo or your introductory slide. All right, so with that, looks like we've had another successful My Build, so I will turn it back to you, Jim.
Oh, what's his name?
My brain is not working tonight at all. And we're completely out to lunch.
Had dinner with what's his name and his wife.
Yep, Ron and Michelle Calais, and then Fred and Natalie from Mud Creek Models, and Jeff Adam.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
Listen, we're running awful late tonight. So Kevin, I introduced you earlier, but it's getting so late. If you don't mind, could we just do yours next week?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay. I'm sorry that we couldn't get you on tonight, but I promise we'll get you on early next week. How's that?
Well, that's fine. And I'm still clearing after COVID, so I was a little fuzzy. We were just gonna run a little video there that introduced people to the parts.
Yeah. But, so let's just wait till next week. I mean, you got to get better. You got to start feeling good.
I'm doing pretty well. I actually did the Timonium show the other day.
Did you?
Yeah, and
next week you'll have to tell us about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks so much. Hope you feel great.
Oh no, I'm doing very well. Thanks.
Good. All right. Well, listen. Let's close the show down with the caboose. Phil, if you could run the one that we selected for tonight, and I hope you all enjoy this. This will give you an idea of the programs that our scholarship recipient will be able to include in his application.
It'll take me a second, so if you'll talk for a moment, it disappeared on me.
I will do that. I can certainly do that. We have our Patreon account, New Tracks Modeling. I hope that you all will consider some donation to it because we really do need your help. I think the scholarship is going to be very successful. I hope that we get enough contributions to be able to offer at least two. But we're trying to be very conservative on what we're telling you that we're going to be able to do, and that's just offer one. But we need to make sure that we do that. Frankly, nobody else is doing this. We know that. We know that this may be controversial for any show to do, but I don't know who else could do this. And we have an awful lot of different kind of modelers and different kind of manufacturers. And now we've got some hobby shops involved with us. we have a diverse part of the hobby community, of the model railroading hobby community that we talk to every week, that we try to present different shows and try to make it as interesting as we possibly can and as educational with ideas and techniques and so forth for the modeling community. We hope that you'll support us and where we're trying to get. So with that said, Phil, if you can find this caboose thing.
Trains, painting, woodwork, model building, electrical work, photography, videography, the list goes on and on and on. Model railroading has a bunch of hobbies rolled into it, but today we're going to be talking about the parts of it that are involved in steam. And no, I'm not talking about the thing that powers steam engines. Hey everybody, my name's Jimmy. Welcome to Coffee and Trains. Today I'm drinking some Tim Hortons. You can check out what some of my viewers are drinking right here. And if you want your comment featured about what coffee you are drinking, you can leave that in the comments below. Cheers, guys. Okay, so STEAM, what is it? Well, it's an acronym for science, technology, engineering, art, and math. These subjects are very important because interest and pursuit of these can lead to amazing opportunities and careers. So let's break down each part of STEAM. The first is science. The most prominent science topics that you are going to come across are material science and chemistry. Basically, you use a myriad of different materials to create a model railroad. You must not only know how to utilize those materials, but how to put multiple different materials together. A great example of this is thin superglue and isopropyl alcohol. I use both of these materials regularly during my model railroad construction. One thing that you should know about these is that IPA will act as an accelerant for the curing process of superglue. In this process, some heat is generated. You want to be careful when using these materials in close proximity. There are plenty of other examples as well. Think about all of the modeling materials like Sculptamold. Someone has to create that at some point. All those different paints have different use cases based on their chemical composition. Science is everywhere in model railroading. Technology is next, and this one's pretty easy. There's all sorts of tech in model railroading. There's also a lot of custom technology built into model railroading. Just look at all the things that I do with Arduinos, or look at things like JMRI, the Engine Driver app, and most recently, the Soundtrack's Blue Nami decoder. Technology is not only a major part of model railroading, but it will only increase its presence in the hobby in the future. Now, it's on to engineering. There are a lot of different topics that I can go into here, but I'm going to start with the most obvious, construction. Building your layout requires certain tools and techniques, as well as some calculations for what you want. These are the type of things that can set off that first spark of engineering curiosity within a young mind. So when you're building a layout, have your kids or grandkids or nieces and nephews with you. You may start them on a path that could lead to a lifetime of fulfilling work. The second part of engineering is electrical engineering. Model railroads do require a certain level of knowledge about electrical work. You can easily blow out DCC decoders or short out lights and track. Having your system properly wired is very important to the health of your model railroad. Art is probably the most obvious of them all. There is so much artistic ability that goes into model railroading. The entire hobby is an art form in and of itself. There's lots of painting, model building, sculpting, all sorts of things. Model railroads are essentially giant dioramas that you build, and building a somewhat realistic diorama takes time and artistic skill. Art is also one of those beauty is in the eye of the beholder type of things. Every model railroad is different, but you are making this art to be beautiful to you. Now we arrive at math. You will do a decent amount of math when it comes to model railroading. The most obvious part of this is measurements that you need to do. Measurements are crucial in model railroading. With things like module construction and international standards, measurements play a critical role in model railroading. The other big part of math that you will use is geometry. Geometry is big in multiple parts of model railroading. One of the most obvious ones is track radii. How many times have I said what a track radius is on here? But there's also a lot of things like angles and bench work. So math is really important in model railroading, especially when you're building and you're trying to figure out exact measurements to make sure that your layout works properly and fits together properly. STEAM is a big part of why I want to share model railroading with my kids, because I want to be able to inspire them to figure out exactly what they want to do in life, and they have to do that through experimentation and trying different things and seeing what they want. And that is a huge part of the STEAM aspect of model railroading. So if you have kids or grandkids or nieces and nephews, share your model railroad with them, because you could inspire their future life and career. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY and Digital. Stay safe, be kind, drink some coffee, and happy railroading.
And thanks so much for everybody for being here this evening. We hope you really enjoyed the show tonight. I hope most importantly, we were able to teach you something or you learned something. We hope that you'll go to our website, newtracksmodeling.com, if you haven't already, and you'll start getting emails once a week with the appropriate login links for our Wednesday shows. We hope also that you'll subscribe to our YouTube channel, New Tracks Modeling. And most of all, we hope that you have a great modeling. Till next time. Thank you.